Hey everyone, Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business. Today we're going to be talking about TRON and EOS and how, unfortunately, the really only thing that they have to offer these days is just gambling applications. And it's the sad truth. And while there are a tiny, minute amount of social media applications, currently there really is none on TRON that work. With EOS, the only really today that is currently in use, not Voice in the future, but Tribe today, it's pretty weak. And Voice is going to have the exact same issues that Tribe has right now. The number one issue being that EOS is overloaded with transactions and has such high CPU usage that unless you have a ridiculous amount of EOS staked, you can't do any transactions whatsoever. So I have $20 worth of EOS, and that is not enough to make one single transaction. Not one. What's a realistic number? $50, $100 for people to just send their money and be able to control their money just basically? I can't even unstake my EOS and get it back and sell it because I can't send it. It's locked. I'm screwed. And that is way too dangerous of something for people to be messing around with. Especially, it's like there's all these other really great platforms. Why would you mess around with needing to stake $100 that you might not be able to make transactions and you won't get your money back, right? It's just not worth it. And then TRON doesn't have anything really available whatsoever for you to take advantage of. And this is all in light of TRON recently announcing, Justin Sun, the founder and owner of TRON, the CEO, he announced that they were buying DLive, which was originally on Steem and then moved to Lino. I literally just put out a video about this, and I'll link that as well. But the whole point is that they're buying this and they're acquiring it and they're merging it with BeLive, which is the BitTorrent live streaming application. And they're going to give up more information on January 15th. But I don't want people getting the idea that TRON or EOS are like these good places for social media platforms and like looking through other ones and thinking, oh, like there's gonna be all this great stuff here. It's not. And you know, there might be some people who really like DLive who are gonna be mad about this, or some people who really like Tribe or EOS or TRON that are gonna say, oh, you're just, you know, that's your opinion, or you're making assumptions, or you're slandering, or whatever it might be. If you're gonna make those claims, please prove me wrong. Comment below, let me know of a good application that currently exists. I would love to see it. And if you're just going to say, oh, well, Tribe is good, you know, you could still use the platform. It's like, okay, but I can't access my funds because EOS is garbage. And I don't think any new EOS application is going to solve that. And even if that is eventually solved, it's been months. And it's unrealistic to expect that people are going to be going through several month-long periods of just not being able to access their funds. It's like, that was the point of crypto, to be able to access your funds at any time and not worry about what the banks are doing or what they think. Now, the new problem for EOS, at least, is that you can't make transactions anyways. Plus, Block 1 holds enough EOS to radically change it. It's basically centralized in terms of how much control they have and could use. Plus, the majority of EOS is also in China, which prompts a lot of fears of Chinese state intervention. So there's a lot of issues with the space, and you know, there's a lot of developers who can't make money, so they're not really contributing to the dapps anymore, and all these other things. The EOS founder was forced to pay $24 million to the SEC. I know it's the same guy who founded Steem, but it's radically different in its actual, you know, in practice rather than in theory. It's radically different, and a lot of it's held by China and Block 1. So there's a whole mess of things with EOS. And again, I actually think TRON isn't that bad. Mind you, I actually have 10,000 TRON. I only have $20 worth of EOS or whatever because I wasn't trying to lose more of it by being staked and stuck, which again is really, really concerning that you can't get your money back. But yeah, no, Tron, I mean, it's probably going to go up after January 15th when they announce the actual merger of BeLive and DLive. I'm pretty sure they were just buying it for PewDiePie's influence. But I'm really hoping that they're actually going to fix all of the centralization, all the issues on the platform, because it has consistently gotten worse every time I've gone back and looked at it. So I really hope that they fix it. Mind you, again, I'll admit, it is a great alternative to Twitch, but it is not a good blockchain live streaming application. I would say just go and use Float. Float.app. It's not going to earn you rewards from the blockchain, but people who donate can do it very easily and they don't take any cuts either. So that's a much better alternative for you, in my opinion. And yeah, when we actually go and look at all of the Tron and EOS applications that are currently in existence, it's just exchanges or gambling applications. And it's like, okay, fine. There might be some great exchanges out there. Fine, whatever. But in terms of actual like decentralized applications that you're using for the application's sake, it's mainly just gambling. And in case for some reason you can't look for yourself, I will share my screen with you. And we're going to take a look at the 5 major DApp directories / listings. And again, this might not cover everything, but if you find something that I've missed, feel free to share away. And I would love to be proved wrong because, again, I've got 10,000 Tron. I think it's actually going to do very well after the acquisition, but I'm not impressed with how DLive has been run, so I'm really hoping they fix that. And then maybe we can say that that Tron finally does have one decent social media application. I won't use it, but we'll see. Anyways, looking down this list, all you really have are exchanges and gambling. And high risk is just also gambling. So just in case you were curious, there are a few games. That is true. That is true. There's a few games. But when you break it down, all the games on blockchain today, 99.999%, are just other forms of gambling. That's all it is. If you're trying to acquire, blockchain cuties and breed them in a certain way and then get a really high value one that you sell, that's just a different form of gambling. I mean, one could argue that it's more like card collecting, but when you're spending money to breed with 2 animals or whatever in the game to potentially get a high value one so that you can sell it, that sounds a lot more like gambling to me. And maybe you disagree, but I think it's really cool. I think non-fungible tokens are really cool, where they're a non-fungible token. I'm actually going to have to do a video on this, the difference between fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens. Essentially, just really quick, is that a fungible token is something that is the same no matter what. So like Bitcoin, all the Bitcoins are Bitcoins. A non-fungible token is if you have, like crypto kitties or like this blockchain cuties or whatever, and you have a different token every single time. So I own a few crypto kitties. They are all uniquely different, and there's no other crypto kitty that is like the one that I own. So they're non-fungible. They're not the same, and they have unique values based on how rare they are, et cetera, et cetera. So, that's something to consider as well. And I'll probably make a video on that very soon. But again, I still consider that very, very close to gambling. And you could call it gaming, but it's basically gambling. There is there's a couple lending applications. But I don't know how trustworthy these are. Again, I'm more curious to see like actual like social applications or more interesting tools. So I will give it to them. Yes, they've got a lending platform. But I wouldn't even say that it needs to be on a blockchain. There's many, many, many lending platforms and places you can go to lend that don't need a blockchain to do the lending, where you can just lend without a blockchain. I mean, you might feel more secure using the blockchain smart contracts, but you don't actually need a blockchain to do crypto lending. That's not actually necessary. Again, it might be better, but I also don't know how reliable this is, right? So I will give you that there is a couple things on here, but there's definitely no good widely used communities like social media. I'm really just interested in social media right now because that's the best application I've seen of any kind of decentralized app, is a social media dApp. Because again, gambling is gambling. The gaming ones are usually more or less still gambling. And you could say that lending is gambling because in a way, I mean, again, I'm kind of arbitrarily using gambling at this point, but you could say like lending is gambling on this random platform. Like, I don't know how popular this is. I've never heard of it before. It's a gamble to be lending your money because you're also locking it in, and then it might go way up, and then you're not going to get the gains of that if it goes back down before you get your money back. So in a way, it's still kind of gambling, right? That's my opinion anyways. But most of these are all gambling. And you could go through any of the lists here and you'll actually find that whether we're talking about EOS or we're talking about TRON, it's mostly gambling. And again, there's games, but a lot of these games end up being basically gambling games. There's no like first person shooters or like straight up like games. It's more like, you know, you spend crypto to get this, and then you might get something better, but you might get something worse, and and it's very gambling-esque, right? It's making it more fun, but it's still basically gambling in my opinion. And again, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who disagree, but I would actually say that it's more like gambling than anything else. Plus, there still isn't like a crazy amount of people using these platforms. I mean, the most popular one probably is like, I think it was EOS Knights, or it's just like one of these like RPGs. Yeah, I mean, there's like 18,000 EOS on it, which still isn't really that much when you really consider, you know, how many people are actually using these platforms. It's unclear. But again, you could argue that there is games to play, but not really any social platforms. And you see, oh, one social network here. Not really. It's it allows you to just add votes with an extension to things that already exist. So, I mean, you could try to make an argument for that being like a social consensus layer. But most people just use Dissenter if they're going to do that, because, you know, like I don't really know anyone who uses this. Again, you could argue that there are social media platforms, but again, with the EOS issues, it's not like you're going to earn anything from this and be able to move it around and actually exchange it. So even if you were to consider and say, yeah, look, there is some that work, they won't really work because of the transactions right now. And again, that could be fixed. But if there's multiple month hiatuses where you can't do anything, that's a huge problem. A huge, huge problem. And again, like there's like barely anyone using this anyways. So the community's so small that it's like, okay, does it really matter? Like when you consider how big is the community for Tribe, their most popular platform, it is very, very, very small. There's not many people posting on there because you can't really do much. You can't get your money back. You can't stake. You can't power up unless you've got a ridiculous amount of EOS stored in staked. So you could go through a lot of these social platforms here, and though there looks like there's a lot more, I've included all the links to all my previous reviews, which include all of these platforms, right? So if you actually go and look at these platforms, they are very, very bad and barely used, and they rely on things like Scatter, which again, I can't use this platform because The CPU usage is so high that even if I were to do anything, I wouldn't be able to sign any transactions because the CPU usage of EOS is so ridiculously high. So I can't use it anyways. So even when you can finally say, oh, well, there is a few exceptions, it's like, well, you can't use them and the community's ridiculously small. There's almost no one on these platforms as well. In the other videos, you can actually see me going through some of these and you see that there's barely anyone posting. In some of them, I was able to get the amount of users, which was like sometimes only 1,000 users, whatever it might be. There's a lot of reasons as to why these are not going to be viable social media platforms. Karma, I've tried multiple times to like sign up and use this. It is very finicky. It doesn't work very well. Plus it's really niche. It's supposed to only be for like sharing charitable acts and things like that. So it's very, very niche. It's not necessarily a regular social media platform either. And Emanate, last time I checked, that wasn't even fully operational. So I'm curious about that one actually. But yeah, again, if you go through a lot of these, and again, check all my old reviews. I did 3 reviews of EOS dapps. You can see any of the ones that look like they could have potential and maybe they actually are a social media platform and they have something going for them. They really don't. And again, you can't really do anything with the transactions issues. So I highly recommend fact check me, try to prove me wrong. The very few that do work that are like messenger applications, I don't really consider that social media. I don't consider communication apps social media. Because this is like only conversing with your contacts, not like posting things for the world and having communications with everyone else. These are more like personal, private conversations. And while that's great, I really don't consider that social media. I just consider that communications. So I think those are very different. And to say that they're the same just to try to like say that I'm wrong is a frivolous argument in my opinion. If you look at all of these, I already checked all of these. Not even half of these even work. And I'll prove it to you by clicking on a couple of them. I'll get errors. This one's offline. Let's try this one. This one is just chat. So again, I don't consider just chat a legitimate social application. So whether they're abandoned or they're just chat or whatever it might be, a lot of these fail to meet the bar. This is just funny YouTube videos apparently, but there's also like nothing here. It's confusing. There's just nothing here. Yeah, so like a lot of these are just, there's nothing going on. There's no way that Tron is really in the social game. And they're going to break into it with DLive. I'm just hoping that they fix DLive and they don't just go in using DLive with what it is now. Because if a company buys another company, it's because they like what they're doing, not because they want to radically change the whole thing. So I actually don't think they're going to fix it. I think they're going to just, they're like, wow, people are really willing to give us all this money and just like leave it on the platform. That's hilarious. Let's capitalize on this. Here they have a white paper and such, but where's the actual, how do I use the platform? You could be an ambassador, but how do I just use the social media platform? Oh, there's a demo app currently. So you can try the demo app, but it's mobile only, I guess. I'm not a fan of mobile only platforms. I mean, I get the appeal, but I'm not a fan. I mean, I will try this out and include it in my next overall review, but you know, you guys let me know. Are you on Poseidon? I'm not a huge fan of when you can only like be in the beta or the demo or whatever. I don't really consider that a fully launched application. Like right now, DLive is not on Tron, so Tron doesn't really have any good social applications. Maybe it will be good. It'll probably be just as bad though. Anyways, I will check out Poseidon though, and I'll let you guys know in the comprehensive review. But I don't think there's gonna be many people on there. Like I guarantee it's not gonna be the greatest, but we'll see. I'm not gonna speak out of turn. Here, app.co. These are block stack. Let me look for EOS or oh wait, they've only got these. Oh, okay, so they're smart enough to not even bother listing EOS or TRON because they know that there's nothing to list other than gambling. So if we go and look at here, we were just on here looking at the EOS stuff. Now this is just TRON again, all gambling. Again, you'll find some games mixed throughout, but it's really all just gambling or games that are meant to be like gambling. And yeah, I mean, that pretty much covers everything that we're looking at. If you can, feel free to look at this stuff for yourself. I would love to be proved wrong. I would love for you guys to comment in the comments and be like, well, you missed this really cool social media application. Check out this one. I'd be like, sweet. I'd love looking at new, awesome, like cutting edge, TRON or EOS or whatever it might be. If it somehow can solve the issues, like I don't think you'll find one for EOS because it's probably going to rely on transactions. But hey, if you can find me a really cool application for TRON, I would love to be proved wrong. People who just comment below and say, like, how dare you not like TRON or how dare you whatever. It's like, okay, well, you're not proving anything. You're just mad that I'm pointing this stuff out, or you're saying, oh, it's just your opinion or whatever. It's like, it's not my opinion unless you're saying it's my opinion that games are gambling applications. But if we're all being honest with ourselves, if you've tried some of these games, which I've played a bunch of them, they all work the same way. It is basically gambling, but trying to spiffy it up to make it more fun and more interesting for the people playing. But it's basically gambling. And considering out of the hundreds and hundreds of dapps, like 90% are gambling, there's clearly a trend there. So let me know what you guys think. I'm curious to hear if you can prove me wrong, if you have something to share. I'd love to hear, what do you think about TRON and EOS? Is it mostly gambling? Am I lying to say, or am I wrong to say that the games are basically gambling as well, and far and few between with tiny communities, mind you, anyways? There are some EOS applications that are all right, but EOS itself is so bad that it negates it anyways. And all right is being generous. Like Tribe, you have to be approved for your posts, all these other things. It's there's just so much resistance that it's like, why fight and struggle and have all these problems when you could just go and use Library or Sawme or Steem or Mines or any of these alternatives, Uptrend, PublishOX. There's so many alternatives out there that are going to be way better for you to use, and I list them in the signatures of all of my posts now, the ones that I'm currently recommending. So if you look at the current video recommendation, you'll see all the ones that I recommend. And with that being said, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.